a lot of this information that students are asking for over email or they can't find, so they drop, is available on the pages that you guys are creating. It's available on the pages that institutions are creating and putting out there through their ads. It's just that students don't have the patience to read them, or the patience or the attention span to read them. And I've been in that boat before. When I was applying for my master's program, I landed on specific pages. I wouldn't read through the page often, and I'd prefer to email someone, because who wants to go? It seems irrational now to think about it in hindsight, but who wants to read through all of that text? And what we're really talking about is just making that information a lot more accessible, a lot more easy to digest. So that's the question we need to ask ourselves. Or one way to phrase it is, how do we address the admissions questions that students have without involving admission staff? So if a student has a question about tuition, if a student has a question about the application timeline, if they're an international student, they have a question about maybe the visa process. How do you address those repetitive queries that are clogging up your admissions counselors' inboxes or causing your drop rate from your landing pages to be high without actually involving any admission staff? Because again, that's not scalable. If your admission staff is dealing with these thousands, even if you're a small admissions team, even if you're getting dozens of queries like this on a daily basis or even on a weekly basis, it's hard to stay on top of them in addition to all of your other duties, because God knows you also have a million other things to deal with at once. So how do we address these admissions questions without involving any human beings, without involving any admission staff? And the answer obviously is automation. This is a trend that's going on across industries. People, when they think of automation, they tend to think about it in the context of like an Amazon warehouse where a robot brings packages from one part of the warehouse to another, but it actually applies in the online world as well, as we're going to see in just a second. And specifically, the sort of automation that we are talking about today is chatbots. And what a chatbot is a automated customer service representative that can resolve queries that a prospect might have, capture lead information from a prospect. So all of those request more information forms that you have on your page, a chatbot can capture all of that same information over a chat. And in a lot of ways, it's more engaging than that form, because people prefer to have chat conversations than they do to fill out forms. No one really likes filling out forms. They're these bureaucratic messes that we associate with going to the DMV, for example. But they're not something that people, especially younger people, explicitly want to interact with. Whereas having a chat with someone, or something in this case, is something that people do with their friends and family on a daily basis. It's something we're used to doing, and it's a little more dynamic. It feels like there's someone on the other end actually taking out the time out of their day to have this conversation with you. Another great aspect about these about chatbots is that they can easily step people through processes. So we don't think about this often, but say that someone has a question about, say, the application timeline, what the timeline looks like after you apply, after you submit your application, what the deadline is, when they expect a response, how the entire process will go. Conveying that through a standalone landing page, a static landing page, is kind of hard. You need to either have a design team that can make a graphic to convey that for you, or you just need to put it on the page as text. And if there are conditions in the process where if situation A arises, then go in this direction, situation B will happen. If situation B happens, then situation C happens. If you have situations like that, it's very hard to convey through a static landing page. People aren't going to go through the effort of reading through that. They'll just email your admissions counselor and ask them to explain it to them in the exact same words, but it feels a little better when it's coming from an actual person. So chatbots are great at that, because they flip the information hierarchy. Instead of presenting all of that information in a wordy landing page, what they do is they have a back and forth conversation where they ask the user for input. They say, oh, does this apply to you? If this applies to you, this is the information that you need, as opposed to presenting everything at the same time. Chatbots are also great at collecting feedback. This is a point I think, Levi, you have experienced firsthand building chatbots, which is that they're a great tool for collecting feedback from people that can help improve the chatbot again and make it even better for people who interact with it in the future, right?
Yeah, and actually, just to jump back one on the process, helping step people through processes as well. One important note to that, and you mentioned it earlier, but you may have international students, right? You may have veterans. You have all these different folks coming that are traditional, non-traditional, have different needs, and those are all conditional. They have conditions to them applying. Now, traditional landing pages and forms, they don't. They have the ability to branch to different outcomes, to different messaging, to handle their needs, but chatbots do, and that's really their superpower, is they're able to segment those users out, and then deliver like really personalized and very specific information that they will actually read. That's the key here, right? With a landing page with all that text, you're not reading it, but when it's in a chat message interface, people consume that much better. They comprehend it way higher, and so you have much better outcomes from that interface, from those interactions. And then on the note of feedback, yeah, I've seen amazing things happen from just asking for a rating and some detailed feedback. It literally creates a feedback loop that is improving your process and doing it through user engagement. And most people pay research groups to do this. You can just do it in your daily workflows using chatbots. So it's definitely another superpower that they have.
Yeah, we actually did an interview with someone who works in the chatbot space, a pretty senior guy in the chatbot space, and he pointed out that errors are actually a chatbot superpower, because if someone lands on your landing page and they can't find something, or they face an issue, they don't have a way of telling you that issue exists. They're not going to go through the effort of finding your feedback form on your page, buried away at the bottom, filling it out and sending it to you. They're just going to close the page. Whereas in a chatbot, the chatbot can ask you right there in the conversation while they have you, and actually get that feedback, which you can use to fix the chatbot or optimize it for the future. Just something that a lot of people don't talk about. In a landing page, what you're going to be looking at is click maps and screen recordings at best, and then you have to guess the issues that the user is going through. Now, the final point over here on this page that I really want to cover is that they automate your back-end workflows as well. I mean, we often think about pieces of software that are front-facing, that interact with end prospects and students only in the context of how they interact with those students. But a key point to note over here is that because a chatbot is a piece of software, it can link up with your CRM instantly. You just have to set up the integration once, and every single conversation that chatbot has with the prospective student gets synced with that prospective student's file in your CRM, which is something that a human conversation can't do. I mean, when your admissions counselors are having conversations with people over email, they don't have the time to sync all of that information with your CRM. Or if they do have to invest the time in doing that, that's time taken away from other tasks that they could be doing during the day, and that kills productivity, it kills efficiency, and it kills your admissions team's ability to convert more people at the top of the funnel and eventually convert them into enrollments further down. And we already covered a lot of this on the previous slide. We got a little ahead of ourselves, but the reason chatbots are a better option in a lot of ways is because, I mean, to distill it down to one line, like we have over here, chatbots offer a mobile-first conversational experience that prospective students want. And what I mean by that is they're taking the same information that your landing pages are presenting, but they are packaging it in a conversational experience that your prospects prefer to have. So when your prospect leaves your landing page to start an email chain with your admissions counselor, the admissions counselor is sharing the same information that exists on your landing page, but they're doing it in a conversational format where the student feels like someone is talking to them. A chatbot does that, but on your page. They don't have to leave the page and start an email thread where an admissions counselor gets involved. The chatbot just has the conversation on the page while they're still there, while they're still interested. But at the same time, they do this without the hassle of any human involvement. So since it's a piece of software, it's cheap. You just need one chatbot to interact with everyone at once, to answer all of your queries at once. They're instant. This is something that we didn't talk about, but when people start an email thread with your admissions counselor might not be able to respond to that email for a couple of hours. A chatbot, on the other hand, being a piece of software, being available 24/7, like we have in the third point over here, can respond to people instantly. And that's a really real underrated benefit of chatbots. It sort of addresses the question when the user has it, when the student has it, as opposed to a few hours down the line when the prospective students may be thinking about something else and they don't really have the mental space to think about the search that they did a couple of hours earlier. And this point about infinite concurrence, again, touched upon it, but a single chatbot can have a conversation with millions of people at once. So there's no question of having a wait time if you do have a live chat system in place, or even email, because you can only really type out one email at a time. You can't respond to multiple people in the same breath, essentially, but a chatbot can achieve that. And really quickly, you can see some.
Just to add a couple things back on that slide, can we jump back real quick? Some key things between mobile first conversational experiences. I like to say this because it really puts perspective to using text interfaces, using chat interfaces. 6 billion active users every month on all the messaging apps in the world. So basically the world uses text messaging. There is not a more ubiquitous interface that exists. It is text messaging. Chat interface is the king of communication, so to speak. So that is a key metric. And really, when we're targeting, especially traditional students, guess what? They're on their phone. They're on their phone constantly. And if you deliver them up, even a mobilely optimized landing page, it still isn't that great on mobile. Sure, it's squished down and it fits on the screen. They don't have to pinch the zoom, but it's still not what they're looking for. It's not what they're used to, and it's not going to deliver the results you want. That's why the conversion rates on landing pages, whether they're mobile optimized or not, are not that good. Versus text messaging, they know how to use that. They immediately understand what's going on, and it makes sense to them, and it's easier for them to consume and move forward, and it's relevant to them. And additionally, right, when we talked about instantaneous answers, instantaneous engagement, again, I just want to point out that highest intent, when their intent is highest, you need to interact with them. So if that email goes 5 minutes or longer being unanswered, they're already off to other schools, applying to them, checking out their programs. And honestly, the first one that answers the quickest may be the one they end up going with. So there's a lot to be said about being able to instantly engage those prospects.
Right. I mean, a way to think about it is that when they're on your page, they're thinking about your institution right then and there. If you email them an hour later, they might be scrolling through Instagram, they might be scrolling through Reddit, they might be doing the dishes. Their mind really isn't focused on your institution. So why give them an answer? Give them the answer when they're not really thinking about you, when you could give them the answer when they are actively thinking about your institution.